Welcome to part 2 of our series on the post-harvest physiology and handling of fresh fruit, vegetables and cut flowers, presented to you by the Post-Harvest Academy. My name is Dr. Charles Whitehead and I'm your post-harvest professor, helping you to better understand how to handle fresh fruit, vegetables and cut flowers after harvest. In part 2 we are going to look at the derivation of fruits and vegetables from plant organs and tissues. Fruits develop from flowers. Generally, a flower consists of the pistil, the stamens, the petals, the sepals, the receptacle, and the pedicel. The pistil is the female part of the flower and consists of the ovary, the style, and the stigma. The stamen is the male part of the flower and consists of the anther with pollen and the filament that carries the anther. The pedicel is the stalk of an individual flower, and the receptacle or flower base is the part of the flower stalk to which the floral parts are attached. Botanically speaking, a fruit is a mature ovary and its associated parts that comes from a flower and contain one or more seeds. The ovary consists of one or more locules or ovary cavities. The locules contain the ovules that produce the seed after fertilization. The ovary wall consists of 3 layers: the exocarp or outer layer, the mesocarp or middle layer, and the endocarp or inner layer that lines the locules. Together these layers form the pericarp. During the development of fleshy fruit, the pericarp and other associated structures become the fleshy portion of the fruit. A fleshy fruit is generally made up of 3 layers: the exocarp, which is the outer layer or skin, the mesocarp, which is the middle layer that is fleshy, and the endocarp, which is the inner layer that surrounds the seed. The exocarp is covered by a waxy cuticle and may have coarse hairs, such as in the case of the kiwi fruit, or fine hairs as in peaches. The exocarp plus the cuticle restricts gas exchange and moisture loss and determines the general appearance of the ripening fruit. Most cuticles are highly impermeable to gases, so that water vapor, oxygen and carbon dioxide gas diffuse mainly via structures in the epidermis. These gases can diffuse through raised pores known as the lenticels, for example, the brown corky spots on the surfaces of apples and avos. They can also diffuse by mass flow through cavities at the calyx end, such as here in apple, and the stem ends of fruit. Gases can also diffuse through stomata on the epidermis. However, at the onset of fruit ripening, the stomata usually become non-functional. Mesocarp tissues usually develop into the fleshy part of a fruit. However, this is not always the case. Accessory tissues often contribute to the flesh. In apples, the fleshy part of the fruit develops from the flower's receptacle, and in lychee from an extra seed covering known as the aril, while the pericarp forms the hard outer shell. The endocarp is the inner layer of cells that surround the locules and sometimes develop as a hard, dense case around the seed, as in peach, apricot and macadamia. Fruit derive from the ovary and other floral structures. Fruits such as peaches, tomatoes, grapes and citrus develop directly from the ovary only. The core of the apple develops from the ovary and the edible part from the receptacle of the flower. In strawberry, the edible part is the swollen receptacle and the pips that we find on it are ovaries. In figs, the fruit is an inflorescence. The inflorescence axis is the white part with a large number of florets on it. Pineapples also develops from an inflorescence. The core of the pineapple is the inflorescence axis, and all of these little blocks on the pineapple are fruitlets that are fused together to produce a multiple fruit. Let's look at a number of examples of fruits and their structures. In apple, the edible parts develop from the receptacle of the flower. The calyx end contains the remains of the calyx, the stamens, and the styles. This green line develops from the exocarp of the ovary, and the white part inside develops from the mesocarp. The membrane that surrounds the seed develops from the endocarp of the ovary. This diagram shows an apple blossom with an inferior ovary. That means that the ovary is below the petals, the calyx, and the stamen, inside a cup-like receptacle, and it is this receptacle that swells up during fruit development to produce the edible part of the apple. In peaches, the hard part of the stone is the endocarp. The mesocarp forms the edible part of the fruit, and the exocarp the peel of the fruit. In grapes, similar to peaches, the exocarp is the outer part of the fruit. The endocarp is this membrane that surrounds the seed, and the mesocarp is the main body of the fruit. In lychees, the hard outer shell develops from the pericarp. The edible part is an extra structure that surrounds the seed. It's known as the aril. In tomatoes, the exocarp forms the peel of the tomato, and the wall of the tomato develops from the mesocarp. The inner layer that surrounds the locules develops from the endocarp. In citrus, such as orange, the colored part, the yellow part or orange part, develops from the exocarp, and it contains oil glands. The white part of the peel develops from the mesocarp, and these radial white membranes from the endocarp. And the locules contain juice cells or juice sacs. In avo, the peel develops from the exocarp, the edible part from the mesocarp, and the brine membrane that surrounds the seed from the endocarp. The strawberry develops from a swollen receptacle, and it contains many fruitlets or achenes on top of it. The average size strawberry holds about 200 of these achenes. A close-up shows the achenes embedded on the receptacle, the swollen receptacle. The achene is a swollen ovary and here we see the ovary with the style still attached to it. In pineapple, the florets are arranged in an inflorescence with an inflorescence axis on an inflorescence axis, and the inflorescence is defined as the arrangement of a cluster of flowers on a floral axis. The ovaries develop into fruitlets of these little florets, which then coalesce into a large, compact and multiple fruit. Each little floret is associated with a leaf-like structure known as a bract. In the mature pineapple, all of these fruitlets are fused together, and each fruitlet is associated with the bract. The core of the pineapple is an inflorescence axis, and the edible part consists of many swollen ovaries. This table shows the floral parts from which many fruit derives. Cherries, peaches, plums, apricots and oranges, tomatoes, peas and bean pods all develop from a single ovary of a flower. Apples and pears are pome fruits, and they develop from a single ovary and the fleshy receptacle of the flower. The strawberry develops from a fleshy receptacle that contains many ovaries. The fig develops from a fleshy inflorescence axis with many florets on it. And the pineapple is a multiple fruit consisting of many fused fruitlets and bracts on a fleshy inflorescence axis. Vegetables originate from different plant organs. Lettuce develops from the apical bud. The stem is shortened and the head of the lettuce is made up of all the leaves attached to the stem. The artichoke is an apical flower bud. Asparagus develop from side shoots. Corn cobs and pea and bean pods develop from fruits. The Brussels sprout develops from an axillary bud and a leaf axil. The celery stalk develops from a flower stalk, leaf stalk, and the onion develops from an underground bud. Potatoes are modified stems, swollen modified stems, underground stems, and carrots and sweet potatoes are swollen roots. Beetroot develops from this part of the plant known as the hypocautal, and leeks develop from this part, also a shortened stem with the roots attached to it and the leaves that are then folded to produce the plant. Spinach develops from the lamina of leaves, and pumpkins and eggplant develops from are fruits. Broccoli and cauliflower are inflorescences. So if we look at examples of vegetables and plant organs from which they derive, we see that potatoes is a modified stem or a tuber. Carrots, sweet potatoes are swollen roots. Cucumbers, tomato, eggplants, peas and bean pods are fruits. Spinach, lettuce and cabbage are leaves. Celery is a petiole, a leaf petiole. Asparagus is a shoot sprout. Beetroot is a swollen hypocautal. Onion is an underground bud. Lettuce is a terminal bud. Broccoli develops from, and cauliflower develops from an inflorescence. Artichoke from a flower bud, and Brussels sprouts from an axillary bud from a leaf axil. In part 3 of this series, we will look at the anatomical and cytological complexity of fruits, vegetables, and cut flowers. For more information on specific commodities, please visit our website at www.postharvestacademy.net.